Is this on?
So the other mic is gone, I guess.
It's still in there.
It's live. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So let's see. Somehow it's more complicated.
Yeah.
Actually, this is better. And a bit. Let's go down here. We'll never get any guests to do this, so I don't know what the point is.
Hare Krishna. Where's our drummer? Drummer! Very short our drummers. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Buddhika-charya Ashtottara Sri Sriman's Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad-gita ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta-vrinda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 22nd day of February 2016 in SanDiego, we're reading from Bhagavad-gita as it is. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we're beginning a new chapter today. It's chapter 14. entitled The Three Modes of Material Nature. Probably on 567 in most of the books. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Param Bhuya Prabhakshyami Jnananam Jnanamuttamam Yadgatva Muniyat Sarve Padam Siddhimito Gata Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Padam Bhuya Prabhakshyami Jnananam Jnanamuttamam Yadgatva Muniyat Sarve Padam Siddhimito Gata Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Padam Bhuya Prabhakshyami Jnananam Jnanamuttamam Yadgatva Muniyat Sarve Padam Siddhimito Gata. Very good.
Shri Bhagavani Vacha
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha
Param Bhuya Prabhakshyami
Padam Bhuya Prabhakshyami
Jnananam Jnanam Uttamam
Jnananam Jnanamuttamam
Yagyatva Munaya Sarve
Yadgatva Muniyat Sarve
Param Siddhim Mitogata.
Padam Siddhimito Gata. Anyone else?
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha
Param Bhuya Pravakshami
Padam Bhuya Prabhakshyami
Jnananam Jnanam Uttamam
Jnananam Jnanamuttamam
Yagyatva Munaya Sarve
Yadgatva Muniyat Sarve
Param Siddhi Mitogata.
Padam Siddhimito Gata. Marquise, you can try.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha
Param Bhuya Pravakshami
Padam Bhuya Prabhakshyami
Yanam Uttamam
Jnananam Jnanamuttamam
Yagyatva Munaya Sarve
Yadgatva Muniyat Sarve
Param Siddhim Itogata.
Padam Siddhimito Gata. Sage.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha
Parambuyaha Pravakshami
Padam Bhuya Prabhakshyami
Yanam Uttamam
Jnananam Jnanamuttamam
Yayatva Manaya Save
Yadgatva Muniyat Sarve
Parasiddhi Mitogata
Padam Siddhimito Gata.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha
Param Bhuya Prabhakshyami
Padam Bhuya Prabhakshyami
Jnananam Jnanam Uttamam
Jnananam Jnanamuttamam
Yadgatva Munaya Sarve
Yadgatva Muniyat Sarve
Param Siddhi Mitogata.
Padam Siddhimito Gata. Mercy.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha
Param Bhuya Prabhakshyami
Padam Bhuya Prabhakshyami
Janam Janam Uttama
Jnananam Jnanamuttamam
Yanapcha Muna Sarve
Yadgatva Muniyat Sarve
Param Siddha Mitogata.
Padam Siddhimito Gata. Not yet. Not yet.
Shri
Go ahead, try it.
Shri Bhagavanu
Uvacha. Uvacha.
Vacha
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha
Param Prakshami
Padam Bhuya Prabhakshyami Jnananam Jnanamuttamam
Yachiva Muna Sarve
Yadgatva Muniyat Sarve Padam
Siddham Uttaka.
Padam Siddhimito Gata. It's alright, we need some lessons.
Yes.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha, the Supreme Personality of God, had said, Padam, transcendental, Bhuyaha, again, Prabhakshyami, I shall speak, Jnananam, of all knowledge, Jnanam, knowledge, Uttamam, the Supreme, Yat, which, Gatva, knowing, Muniyaha, the sages, Sarve, all, Paraham, transcendental, Siddhim, perfection, Itaha, from this world, Gataha, attained. Translation, the Supreme Personality of God had said, again I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained the supreme perfection. Purport. From the 7th chapter to the end of the 12th chapter, Sri Krishna in detail reveals the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now the Lord himself is further enlightening Arjuna. If one understands this chapter through the process of philosophical speculation, he will come to an understanding of devotional service. In the 13th chapter, it was clearly explained that by humbly developing knowledge, one may possibly be freed from material entanglement. It has also been explained that it is due to association with the modes of nature that the living entity is entangled in this material world. Now, in this chapter, the Supreme Personality explains what those modes of nature are, how they act, how they bind, and how they give liberation. The knowledge explained in this chapter is proclaimed by the Supreme Lord to be superior to the knowledge given so far in other chapters. By understanding this knowledge, various great sages attained perfection and transferred to the spiritual world. The Lord now explains the same knowledge in a better way. This knowledge is far, far superior to all other processes of knowledge thus far explained, and knowing this, many attain perfection. Thus, it is expected that one who understands this 14th chapter will attain perfection. Om Jnana Timandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this is quite an opening verse and purport, which induces us to really study this chapter carefully. As explained in the title, this chapter is called The Three Modes of Material Nature. And in this chapter, Krishna will begin by explaining that he's the source of everything, every living entity. And the famous line at the beginning is, Aham bija pradakpita, I am the father of all living beings. And then he proceeds to explain how we come into this world and everything is conducted by these three modes of nature. And this is where we get into a little detail. We've heard about these three modes before. But now Krishna is going to explain in detail how they affect us, what their characteristics are, and most importantly, how to transcend them. At the end of the chapter, Arjuna asks about what are the characteristics of someone who's transcended these modes of nature, and how does one go about transcending the modes of nature. So it's a very important chapter, as Krishna says here. Now, Prabhupada has a little review here from the 7th to the 12th chapter. Now, this 7 to 12, these are the middle 6 chapters of the book. And Prabhupada has said elsewhere that these are the most important chapters. This is the essence of the whole Bhagavad Gita. And if you recall, the 12th chapter is all about Bhakti Yoga. It's a short chapter, 20 verses. But it deals wholly and solely with devotional service. There is a question, what is the best means of advancement, in personal endeavor or devotional service? And Krishna answers very explicitly, so there's no doubt. So, and then in the 13th chapter, Krishna expands on things that he's explained before. Arjuna wanted to know, what is the Chaitra Gya? What is this field made with this body? And what is the soul that knows the body? Who is the Purusha, the soul in the enjoying mood? And what is this Prakriti? The word Prakriti is very significant. Prakriti often means this material energy, but it can also mean spiritual energy. Para Prakriti. There's Para and Para. Para means transcendental, just like we have Paramatma. Para is a very common word. So Apara means just the opposite. It means material energy. So in this the previous chapter, Krishna explained the knower of the field and the field, and he explained the living entity entangled in Prakriti, and there he spoke about the modes of nature. Prabhupada is referring to that in his purport. Purusha Prakritisto hi bhunkte Prakriti jan gunan karanam gunasangosya salasajoni janmasu. Notice that word guna. When you hear guna in this context, it means the modes of nature. So in that verse, which Prabhupada said is very significant for understanding how the living entity transmigrates from body to body, which should very much concern us, how we can stop the process. So he says, the living entity who's trying to enjoy, the Purusha, is within this material energy, Prakriti sto. And Bhukte Pakade Janganan, the living entity is experiencing the modes of nature generated from this prakriti, from this material energy. Now, how we choose to associate with those modes, karanam guna sangasta, the word karana means cause. So our guna sangha, how we associate with those modes, will be the cause of whether we get a good, bad, or a different body. In other words, that's where our destiny is being formed, by how we associate with those modes. Now, for the most part, we're more or less helpless. We don't know anything about the modes. Most people, they just go along in life. And as they interact with the modes, they either rise up or sink down into goodness or down to the mode of ignorance. And letting the mode of ignorance infect one is a very dangerous position. Because if one dies in the mode of ignorance, he may very well lose the human form of life altogether. So much of Krishna conscious practice has to do with cultivating and maintaining the mode of goodness. It's not a goal, but it is a very important platform upon which we can build our spiritual life. Just like the example of the ashram. There's so much regulations in eating and sleeping and so much cleaning going on, and all of that maintains the mode of goodness. And then, in that mode, then Krishna consciousness very quickly affects one. To come up from the mode of ignorance to the mode of passion, the mode of goodness, and then become transcendental is possible because there's no bar at being Krishna conscious. But most people who are in the mode of ignorance, it doesn't interest them. They're not interested in self-realization, these finer things. It's just like more gross sense, immediate gratification thing. That's the mode of ignorance. So how to, first of all, understand how these modes are working, where they arise. The modes actually affect our mind. They affect our mind in real life. And so this is a very important topic. And that's why Krishna says this knowledge, jnanam, means of all knowledges. This is the jnanam uttamam. Now I heard a lecture, I had to listen to at least one lecture probably every morning. And this word uttamam, it comes up all the time. Purushottama is a very common word. The supreme person, right? Purusha. We're Purusha, but we're not Purushottama. Krishna is Purushottama. So what is this Uttama? Prabhupada says Uttama has Ut means above, beyond, and Tama means darkness. So Krishna is, anything that's Uttama is beyond the darkness, transcendental, the best. So this is the best knowledge, Jnanam Uttamam. And one who knows this, the sage who knows this, will attain the supreme perfection. So this is a great inducement to go on. So unless there are any questions or comments, I'm going to read the next verse. Should we go on? Idam jnanam upashritya mama sadham yamagata sarge pinopajayante pralayena vyatanti cha. By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution. Excuse me. Purport. After acquiring perfect transcendental knowledge, one acquires qualitative equality with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, becoming free from the repetition of birth and death. One does not, however, lose his identity as an individual soul. It is understood from Vedic literature that the liberated souls who have reached the transcendental planets of the spiritual sky always look to the lotus feet of the Lord, of the Supreme Lord, being engaged in his transcendental loving service. So even after liberation, the devotees do not lose their individual identities. Generally, in the material world, whatever knowledge we get is contaminated by the three modes of material nature. Knowledge which is not contaminated by the three modes of nature is called transcendental knowledge. As soon as one is situated in that transcendental knowledge, he is on the same platform as the Supreme Person. Those who have no knowledge of the spiritual sky hold that after being freed from the material activities of the material form, this spiritual identity becomes formless without any variegatedness. However, just as there is material variegatedness in this world, in the spiritual world there is also variegatedness. Those in ignorance of this think that spiritual existence is opposed to material variety. But actually, in the spiritual sky, one attains a spiritual form. There are spiritual activities, and the spiritual situation is called devotional life. That atmosphere is said to be uncontaminated, and there one is equal in quality with the Supreme Lord. To obtain such knowledge, one must develop all the spiritual qualities. One who thus develops the spiritual qualities is not affected either by the creation or by the destruction of the material world. So, again, we have a verse inducing us to study this chapter. Now, this idea of the nature, this sadharmi, the word sadharmi is used. Sometimes we get the word bhava to mean nature. It's equivalent in context. But sadharmi, the word dharma, has to do with one's essential nature. This word is a very important point. The whole book, Bhagavad Gita, begins with the word dharma. Dharma kshetra kuru kshetra. Right? Everyone knows this. So dharma kshetra refers to the battlefield, but it's not an ordinary battlefield. It's a place of sacrifice. In other words, it's understood that because the battle is taking place on this field of dharma, the pious pandavas will come out ascended. That's foregone. And throughout the Gita, this word dharma is important, and especially at the end. Sarva dharma paritya jamami, the last instruction of Krishna, is give up all dharmas or other dharmas and just practice sanatana dharma, namely bhakti yoga. So, now sarge no vijayante pralaya no vitanti cha. So, this idea of creation and destruction, everything is going on in the material world in terms of like this rhythm, of everything material comes into being and stays for some time and then is eventually dissolved. And we ourselves, because we identify with the body, that's true of our body certainly in birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. But here Krishna is speaking about the ultimate creation and the ultimate dissolution. In other words, there's a huge creation with Mahavishnu, the appliances and all of that. So we won't have to take part in that. We won't have to go through those many millennia of being in a state of suspended animation within Mahavishnu, and then come out and start again with trying to exploit the material energy. And see, the idea is one goes back to God if he understands this knowledge, especially at the end where Krishna explains how to transcend the modes. We have to learn how to transcend the modes. We have to have a strategy how to do that. And it's nicely summarized here in the Bhagavad Gita and given great detail in the Bhagavatam and the books of the Goswamis. That's what the whole process of Krishna consciousness is all about. Now, qualitative equality. This comes up again and again because a large part of the teachings and the preachings of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas has been combating this idea of Mayavad philosophy. Mayavad is impersonalism. Why is it called Mayavad? Vad comes from the word vak, means language or words. So some kind of the word vad is used at the end of any philosophy in the Vedic philosophy. So Mayavad, they say, the Mayavadis say that this is all unreal. They have a certain slogan. Brahma Satyam Jagan Vidya. This is one of these slogans you learned earlier. So Brahma Satyam. Brahma means the absolute truth, spirit. So basically what this is, spirit is real and Maya is false. Doesn't really exist. It's almost like the Buddhist idea. We're just dreaming that we exist, but actually we don't exist. The void is really the truth. So therefore Mayavad is said to be covered Buddhism. Now, how did this philosophy come about? Well, there's an interesting account. Many of you haven't heard this yet. So, here's the way it's understood. That because of the Kali Yuga, everything becomes corrupted. Even the Vedas, the Vedic knowledge becomes corrupted. And what happened historically, although the Vedas are originally pure, they're emanating from Krishna, right? And the essence of the Vedas, the Bhagavatam is there, meant for the elevation of society. But because of the age of Kali, in which the lower modes of nature, passion, and ignorance are very prominent and very strong, even the Vedas are misused. They're very authoritative, so one's misusing. So within the Vedic culture, and this may become a little bit of a shock, but this is a fact. The Vedas are very, very vast. You have much material knowledge as well as spiritual knowledge in the Vedas. The essence of the Vedic knowledge, the spiritual knowledge is in the Upanishads. I'm talking about the 4 Vedas. Then you have the Vedanta Sutra. But there's something called Karma Kanda. Kanda means like where we get the word canto. It's a division of a book. Okay? So Karma Kanda is that section of the Vedas, which is a very prominent section, which deals with all kinds of sacrifices and austerities for material elevation. The goal is going to heaven, or at least getting a very good birth in this lifetime, becoming prosperous, having good, nice bodily features, all of these nice, opulences. So there are sacrifices you can perform. There are deities or demigods you can worship, and there's all kinds of rules and regulations for doing that. And you have to engage the Brahmins, and you have to have big sacrifice, the whole thing. And so that's a part of the Vedas. And in those Vedas, in that section of the Vedas, there is even some provision for sacrificing, which means killing in a very controlled way, according with mantras and everything, an old cow, for the purpose of giving a new birth. This was only authorized before Kali Yuga. But in the Kali Yuga, the same books are still there. And so certain corrupt Brahmins started taking those portions of the Vedas and using it for the excuse of cow slaughter. So the Vedas are being misused. So what happened was that ultimately Krishna had to come as Buddha in order to preach ahimsa and actually reject the Vedas. This is in India. And in order to combat this cow slaughter, and so there was a certain historical period where Buddhism became quite prominent in India, and they were combating this thing. But if you reject the Vedas wholesale, then you have no standing, then you're hopeless. So as this Buddhism became prominent, okay, the cow slaughter was diminishing, but in order to bring back the authority of the Vedas, now that Buddhism had become so popular, was it Shiva? No, Krishna instructed Shiva to come as Shankaracharya in like 600 AD, something like that, or wait a minute, in order to preach a covered Buddhism, which would not be bhakti, but it would be based on the Vedas, specifically Vedanta Sutra, which is the essence of the philosophy of the Vedas. And so Shankaracharya, who's understood to be expansion of Shiva, brilliant. He took sannyasi, like he was 12 or something, and brilliant scholar. And he wrote this interpretation of the Vedanta Sutra, impersonal interpretation called the Sharirika Bhashya. It's existent today. And he started this whole Mayavad line. And in order to at least reestablish the Vedas, because everyone was into this covered Buddhism. So it wouldn't be that ultimately nothing exists, but ultimately only Brahman exists. And we are Brahman, right? You know this phrase, and this is one of these other phrases you learn, Aham Brahmasmi, right? I am spirit, not matter. It's the first lesson in the Bhagavad Gita. So I am spirit, I am Brahman. And there's the infinite Brahman. Now we have forgotten we're Brahman. Now we're thinking we're this body. So by knowledge, by understanding, we can understand again that we're Brahman, merge into Brahman and become the Supreme. Again, attain our, merging. Without body, without thought, without any variety. That's where the Nirvishesh comes in. Vishesha means variety. Nirvishesh means no differentiation. Just that undifferentiated white light of spirit. Where we're a little particle, we merge back in, we're liberated. Bhukti, exalt mukti. So where does bhakti come in? Nowhere. Bhakti is for the emotional masses like us. You see? You need something to meditate on, okay, chant Hare Krishna. But ultimately you got to know that sound is Maya. It's made of material energy, it's material sound. That the deity is stone. The prasadam is ordinary food. It's a hellish mentality. And you don't even like to hear about it, right? But that's what they believe. That's what they're called Mayavadis. They're always saying, that's Maya, you're Maya, that's Maya. So what is their discipline? Studying Vedanta Sutra and severe austerities. They can't enjoy a gulab jamun. It's Maya. Better to fast for 3 days or eat something tasty. They can't. The deities doesn't matter. They may take part in kirtan, but they don't believe. It's just to fix the mind. So Prabhupada so periodically you'll find in his books, lectures, he's combating his Mayavad. So historically, the Mayavad philosophy became very prominent in India, but then the great acharyas such as Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Ramanuja was first, I think, and Madhvacharya, and then others prominence, and Lord Chaitanya came to combat Mayavad philosophy and to show that the real interpretation of Vedanta is bhakti. That's the end. And guess what? That's Prabhupada's name, Bhakti Vedanta. That the ultimate knowledge is bhakti. It's not impersonalism. And so there's a constant battle going on, and even in Prabhupada's books. Now for us, nobody here is a serious Mayavadi. But the Mayavad idea is infected. Impersonal, atheistic idea is infected the whole world, really. So it's important. So Prabhupada here says, after acquiring transcendental knowledge, one acquires qualitative equality with the Lord, not quantitative. We're like the drop of the ocean water. We have the same quality, a little salty, but of course the quantity is vastly different. We're little sun rays, we're not the sun. We're, personalities. We're eternal, just like Krishna. We're conscious, just like Krishna. We have senses, like Krishna, and desires and activities and a name and form and everything. But we're infinitesimal and he's infinite. So there's a vast difference. So we're servants eternally. He's the master eternally. But it's the loving master and the loving servant, and so in that loving exchange, everyone enjoys. That's the idea. So Prabhupada will periodically come with this qualitative equality, not quantitative. And we never lose our identities. He's combating Mayavad here, first paragraph. And so then he says, these modes of nature affect everything. And we're going to learn here in 14th chapter, and later on in the 17th chapter, 18th chapter. Everything is in terms of the modes. There's paintings in the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. There's music in the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. There's food. That's in 17th chapter, modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And charity, knowledge, activity. And so it helps to understand from the book so that we can see. We can see the world. Now I understand where that person's coming from. They're affected by the mode of ignorance. That's why they're so touchy. That's why they're so angry. That's why they're so depressed. Because they let the mode of ignorance infect them. And then you see everything through that lens. And you see yourself, So that's why cultivation of the mode of goodness is so important. And ultimately pure goodness. So this sattva guna and shuddha sattva. Shuddha sattva means pure goodness without a tinge of passion or ignorance. That's what we're ultimately aiming for. And in that state, which is called also the Vasudeva state, then Vasudeva becomes manifest. Very important to differentiate between the long and the short syllables. I'll give this example. I came up with lately. Please forgive me. But just for Vasudeva, Vasudeva. Vasudeva is the father of Krishna. Vasudeva is a name for Krishna. He appeared as the son of Vasudeva. You read the Krishna book. So the big difference between Vasudeva and Vasudeva, right? So sometimes we become sloppy because we're Kali Yuga. So, but pronunciation is everything. In rabbinical culture, they train from childhood the precise pronunciation. You probably don't know. I don't even know if you know that in the Gurukul, when the Brahmins kids train, they learn to chant the whole Vedas forward and backward. They're going to chant the word backward too, so that everything becomes precise like that. We don't bother with that. There's one place in the Bhagavatam where that appears, the Narayana Kavacha shield. In Canto 6, you get a little. One should chant on the different syllables. Different. If you put the, Narayana Kavacha. I don't know by heart. And then do it backwards, like that. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Ya Vasudeva.
That's a protection mantra, right?
That's a protection mantra. Yeah. So, but we don't do much of that. And ultimately, Krishna is Bhava Grahi Janardana. He, Bhavagrahi Janardana, another one of these phrases. Janardana, Krishna, he understands. Grahi means to grasp, just like we said, oh, I grasp something, means, I understand it. He understands our bhava. In this case, it means our feeling, our emotion. That's what he's looking for. So, and it has to do with pronunciation. Let me see if I can remember the Sanskrit. I keep forgetting it. Murka vadati vishnaya. Diro, vadati vishnave. Ubayos to the same punyam. I forget what the word is. Bhavagrahi Janardana. So murka means a fool. So in Sanskrit, you go to school, you learn all different grammar, right, and language. So it's an inflected language. It means that according to how the ending is in the pronunciation, you know how it's used in a sentence. I once studied German for a while. That's also inflected. And so the word Vishnaya actually isn't in Sanskrit, but that ending aya is used to be unto you, unto you. We say it every day. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prestaya, Bhutale, right? So that means unto you, O Srila Prabhupada, who are Vishnu Padaya. Now Vishnu Padaya has an interesting meaning. A lot of these phrases have more than one meaning. So Vishnu Padaya means at the feet of Vishnu. It also means one who is taking the post of Vishnu in this world. Interesting, because that's what the pure devotees do. They represent Krishna here. So unto you, Srila Prabhupada, who are taking the post of Vishnu's world or at Vishnu's feet, and Krishna Prestaya, who are most dear to Krishna. You see? So now, the fool means the one who's not very well educated is saying, okay, so there's the name Vishnu, and the vocative form, the vocative form, is Vishnaya. It makes perfect sense, but that's an exception. Vishnu, because of the ending, is not used like that. The actual proper pronunciation is Vishnave, right? Rather than Vishnaya. So it says here, the fool says Vishnaya. The Dhira means the self-controlled sage, Brahman. He says Vishnave, Om Namo Vishnave. But both of them get the same benefit because, provided they're both saying it sincerely, because Krishna, or Janardana is the name for Krishna, he understands the mood that you're saying it. So ultimately, it's not the end of the world if you don't pronounce these correctly. But just like when you first try to cook something for Krishna, it's not going to come out perfect. But if you do it sincerely, he accepts it anyway because he sees the mood. Right? But if like a month, a year, 5 years later, you're still messing up the prep, then that means that you're not really sincere, right? So the same thing is true for pronunciation. Especially my favorite is, if you can call it that, favorite mispronunciation, is that in the morning we sing this song to the spiritual master, right? So the most blatant mispronunciation, the last verse is really significant. We say, Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado yasya prasadam nagati kutopi, which means by the mercy of the pure devotee, spiritual master, you get Krishna's grace. So by his prasad, you get Krishna's prasad, you see. Yasya prasada, his prasad, bhagavat prasada. Bhagavan is Krishna. And then the next line says, but without his mercy, we have no means of advancement. This is the importance of the spiritual master. There has to be a human interface there. And so most of the devotees, they pronounce it Yasya prasada, bhagavat prasado, Yasya prasada, nagati katoga. Sounds perfectly right. But the problem is that the second line, there's this combination of words, and sandhi. And when one word ends with an A, and the next word begins with an A, they combine to make a long A. Instead of ah, it sounds like ah. And that makes all the difference in the world. So instead of yasya prasadam nagati katopi, it should be yasya prasadam nagati katopi. Is it? Without his mercy or with his non-mercy, there's no means of advancement. So every morning I'm hearing everyone say, by the mercy of the spiritual master, there's no means of advancement. Does that make any sense? You see? So now let's bring it into English. Now this is a kind of a little bit strange example, but bear with me, okay? Because in English we know. We would immediately say, that's ridiculous. So have you ever gone camping? Most of us have gone camping, or something. So if you have like a one-man, one-woman tent, it's called a pup tent, right? So you may say that you're out there camping and you say, well, will you please put up your poop tent and so you can see. Would that work? Which one? This is one little syllable, you know what I mean, right? So this is the way it is in Sanskrit, for those who know the language. So we should try to make the effort of pronouncing properly. It's pleasing to Krishna. That's my little speech tonight. Okay. Text 3. Now this one.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, first of all, thank you for going over the Madhya.
What is it?
The Madhya
Mayavad is philosophy.
philosophy, because I read it and read it, and I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
So they're quite prominent to this day.
To this day, they're quite prominent, especially in Benares and other places like that. You'll even find them in Vrindavan.
Would you say other religions are in that category also?
You know, generally the Abrahamic religions, you know, they're not that way. They believe in a personal God. But the problem is that they don't have many details that they can give you. And really the essence of the whole thing is the accuracy in which the knowledge has come down. I mean, historically, anyone who knows the Christian history, the Bible has undergone some major revisions, right? It wasn't, I forget the names, but there was a certain point in which they expunged everything about reincarnation, because you see, reincarnation is a big challenge to the priests. In other words, if it's just one shot, right? We're born we come into being when we're born, and we have one shot to either go to heaven, or if we don't accept Jesus and we're going to hell, right? Isn't that more or less it? I mean, it's not like you come back again and have another time. And there's certainly, the big thing is, you didn't live before, right? You came in, you're coming into being now. So, reincarnation is a big challenge to that. Number one, it gives you another chance. And number two, logically, it means I lived before. And so therefore, then this whole idea of karma and reincarnation, it's not what the priesthood wanted to challenge. Now I don't know but I know that there were some things about the reincarnation there. I know that some of the earliest Christian scholars, like Origen, who lived 50 AD or something, he was totally into reincarnation. And he was ostracized. I don't know if he was burned at the stake, but whatever they would do, he became a blasphemer because of that. So this is going on in the church, in the Western church. And the problem is that as far as Jesus' teachings go, there's some things there that are exactly like bhakti. Like we love thy God with all thy heart, all thy mind, living very simply, right? Not helping the poor, being kind to others. There's so many other things. And in the Old Testament, I haven't studied the Bible obviously, but there's the Psalms, and in David's Psalms we have play those cymbals and raise your voices up in praise of the name of the Lord, right? Yeah, right, you got it. But there's all so much other stuff, that really, but at least the idea that God is a person is there. It's not Mayavad. But the problem is to love that God, to love anybody, you need some details. You need to know the form, the qualities, the pastimes, and most importantly, the name. And that's what you generally can't find in these other religions. So, the impersonalism, to its nth degree, was developed in this Mayavad philosophy, and to some degree also in Buddhism. Although Buddhism has the saving grace that a lot of them, the simplest Buddhists, they worship Buddha. As they have artik and everything, and that's good because Buddha is an expansion of Krishna. So there's some form there. But if you want, the systematic, logical, and complete science of God, it's definitely here. Okay, so 3 and 4, and we'll probably do just 3 today, but 4 is like a very prominent verse. We'll work into it in 3. Mama yone mahad brahma tasmin garbham dadhamyaham sambhavak sarvabhutanam tato bhavati bharata. The total material substance, called Brahman, is the source of birth. And it is that Brahman that I impregnate, making possible the births of all living beings, O son of Bharat. Purport. This is an explanation of the world. Everything that takes place is due to the combination of Chaitra and Chaitragya. Notice this is you're going back to the previous chapter. Chaitra and Chaitragya, the body and the spirit soul. This combination of material nature and the living entity is made possible by the Supreme God Himself. The Mahatattva is the total cause of the total cosmic manifestation. And that total substance of the material cause, in which there are three modes of nature, is sometimes called Brahman. Now this is where it gets a little confusing, because Brahman can mean the whole material nature, or it can mean the spiritual nature, or it can mean the living entity, so you have to know the context. The Supreme Personality impregnates that total substance, and thus innumerable universes become possible. This total material substance, the Mahatattva, is described as Brahman in the Vedic literature, Mundaka Upanishad 119. Tasmad etad Brahma nama rupam annam chajayate. The Supreme Person impregnates that Brahman with the seeds of the living entities. The 24 elements, beginning from earth, water, fire, and air, are all material energy, and they constitute what is called the Mahad Brahma, or the Great Brahman, the material nature. As explained in the 7th chapter, beyond this there is another superior nature, the living entity. Into material nature, the superior nature is mixed by the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thereafter all living entities are born of this material nature. The scorpion lays its eggs in piles of rice, and sometimes it is said that the scorpion is born out of rice. But the rice is not the cause of the scorpion. Actually, the eggs were laid by the mother. Similarly, material nature is not the cause of the birth of the living entities. The seed is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they only seem to come out as products of material nature. Thus, every living entity, according to his past activities, has a different body, created by this material nature, so that the entity can enjoy or suffer according to his past deeds. The Lord is the cause of all the manifestations of living entities in this material world. So, this is one of the things that is kind of a little hard to wrap your mind around in terms of Krishna consciousness. On the one side, we hear periodically, especially Bhagavad Gita, of this inconceivable power and glory of the Lord. Just try to wrap your head around it. That every living entity, or every ant, every insect, and animal, and tree, and blade of grass, what to speak of human beings, higher deities, all of them are spirit souls, just like us. The spirit soul in the ant is the same as the spirit soul in the human being, is the same as the spirit soul in Brahma. So what's the difference? Well, the difference, obviously, is in the body that we inhabit, which is a reflection of our consciousness. The consciousness is now expressed through this body. And we're rewarded these bodies according to this higher power. As Kapila Dev says famously, karmana daivanetrena jantu dehopapatiye. Karmana, according to one's karma, one's activities, this is of course in human life where we have free will. Daivanetrena, very important, every one of these syllables is important. Daivanetrena means according to the observation of the Daiva. Daiva refers to the demigods and of course also to the super soul. Jantu dehopapatiye, every jantu, every living entity who's destined to be embodied. Because many living entities don't have a material body, but we do in the material world. We get a certain body. How? By the combination of man and woman and that whole birth there explained there. And then it goes on to explain the development of the fetus in the womb. So, but it's all according to the karma. And it's not just some automatic mechanism in nature. There's intelligence involved, both on the demigod side and especially on the super soul side. So everything is under the control of this vast, infinite intelligence of the Lord. But it's that same intelligence that belongs to a person, Krishna, who is also cavorting in the Loka Vrindavan with the gopis and the cows and the cow boys. Right? So you have these two sides of Krishna. And we really have to know both sides to be, to have a healthy spiritual life. Because just to be, in awestruck of the Lord, then we veer toward the, fear and trembling side, That's kind of Western religion is into that. They don't have any inkling of this, all attractive nature of the Lord. But the powerful nature, that we can see in nature itself, right? And so I want to get on his good side. Right? So this is the idea of God as the supreme punisher, the judge, he's always watching. But then your impetus for serving is always fear, basically fear, right? That's not bhakti. That's not bhakti. And that's not where we want to go. But to know this greatness of Krishna is essential, because it gives us a proper understanding of our position as very insignificant and helpless and kind of fragile and in need of the help of Krishna to save us, to pick us up. And we find Lord Chaitanya is praying like that. Ainanda tanuja kinkaram. My dear Lord, O son of Nanda, I've fallen into this horrible world of birth and death. Please pick me up and place me as an atom at your lotus feet eternally. In other words, reinstate me in service to your lotus feet. So that's there. Okay, we're going to save the next one for tomorrow, because this is a very famous verse. But since we have a few minutes, I'll give you one poem. It is said, I forget the Sanskrit, but there's some little phrase, one should always end with something sweet. There's something sweet. So there's I've only written a few poems. I'm not really writing too many now, but it's like, it's ever fresh. So Krishna it says, Inna nila manimandula varna, pullani pukasamanchita karna, Krishna labada kishora sihari, sundaro jayati kundi bihari. This is the first verse of Astika by Rupa Goswami. And he says, his smooth complexion conquers sapphires, stunning to the eye. Kadamba blooms with fragrance full on each ear gently lie. His beauty's greatened by his chest, where Gunja necklace stays. All glories to the Lord who in Vrindavan's forest plays. Shakora longing for the moon of Radha's radiant face, a thief purloining patience from the coward's wives apace. His expert rhythmic clapping, winning all the gopis' praise. All glories to the Lord who in Vrindavan's forest plays. And the next one is about Govardhan, so listen up. When Indra's sacrifice he stopped, he stole the Deva's pride by playfully uplifting, giving Govardhan to hide his friends and cows beneath the hill for 7 nights and days. All glories to the Lord who in Vrindavan's forest plays. O Radha Krishna, children of the best of coward men, the single boon I beg from you again and yet again. In all the countless births my endless sins will make me meet. Let all my love flow toward your luscious, lustrous lotus feet. Sweet, sweet is my dear Lord's form, sweet is still his face so fair, but his honey-scented gentle smile is sweet beyond compare. That's one of the first ones I wrote. Queen Kunti prays, O Madhava, please ever fill my mind with thoughts of thee, not any other kind. As Ganges torrent flows into the sea, let all my love flow constantly to thee. And on that note, we'll end and move it to our next program, Kirtan. All glories to Srila Prabhu. I don't know if you know this, but it's being televised. So several thousand people watching.
Yes, sir.
How can we find these other definitions for the Sanskrit? You said it has many names. It has many meanings, like
Brahman?
Vishnu Padaya, opposed to Krishna.
Well, that I learned from Bhagavad and I forget some posts you can get. So I'm not sure. You could write to him. He's a scholar.
Yeah, I would put the microphone there too.
We're coming for like yesterday, Saturday, God, back
I was on duty.
back to back. 4 o'clock, I Guru Puja, then came, and then in the evening, then came. Oh,
Too much.
I think.
Yes, go ahead.
During one of your posts, I heard you say Carter.
You misheard. I misheard. Never mind. Yeah, I don't have a problem with Carter.
That's probably.
I'm a pillow.
tomorrow too?
Yeah, not tomorrow.
Okay, if you want to come, and you're just like, get there, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I should come and you.
Okay. So I'm in electric reaction.
Rishi Gaurajai, Jai. Rishi Gaurajai, Jai. Jai Jagannath Baladev
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauramba Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyamari Bhattacari Satarine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauramba Pracharine Nirvishesha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaur Bhaktavrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Shri Krishna Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Shri Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Gopanande Hare Bol. Giant Paramahansa Buddhika Church, Astor Church of the Sri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON BBG founder of church, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Buddhika Church, Astor Church of the Sri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shri Prabhu Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mahi Ki Jai Yamuna Mahi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Balada Ladandayine Hiranyakashipo Vaksha Shilatankana Kalaye Singa Parato Singo Yato Yato Yamitato Singa Pari Singo Ridnaye Singo Singa Maning Sharanam Pade Kamalavare Nakam Amdita Shinga Marika Hiranyakashipo Tanumringa Kesharadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Kamalavare Amdita Shinga Umringa Kesharadita Narahari Rupa Keshavandrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re, Jai Jagadisha Re, Jai Jagadisha Re, Keshavandrita Narahari Rupa, Jai Jagadisha Keshavandrita Narahari Rupa, Jai Jagadisha Re, Jai Jagadisha Re, Jai Jagadisha Re, Keshavandrita Narahari Rupa, Jai Jagadisha Jaya Nasingade, 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 Jaya Nasingade, 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 Jaya Narahari, 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 Jaya Narahari. Shri Bhagavan ki jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki jai, Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
We have plates and spoons and cups.
Everything there. But I'm doing now.
All the power plants.
Now I'm just gonna save like like a stack of plates and cups because sometimes we see the bottom or
Yes, we have a reading group. You know what? On the shelf. Okay, anyone want any prashad? Prashad? Come on, everyone. Take a little. We have a very interesting subject here. Fish. Would you like some? But you tell me how much you like. Oh, I see. It's Coca. How about a pool? And a little of this wonderful water. And we have some milk. A little milk. Nice you can make it. On Tuesday, we get tomorrow. Very good. Very often. Okay. It'd be great to see you. Come on, Gita. You know you play a mean card. You were trained from birth, right? Your brother? Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, there's some. I don't know. I'll show you. Okay. One? Or just I can show you. How about a little?
Every day 2 drops in each nostril.
Okay.
Hang your neck at the back and
Look too.
lie on the bed or usually it comes inside the no problem. No pain, no serious. Just try that really hard. Alternate breathing.
Yeah. I was doing, the breathing that you taught me this morning because I woke up and I had a headache.
6 months.
So I do working. I work at Harvard with facilitate for people that have Alzheimer's and dementia. So I'm in memory care. Yeah, I work at Stanford.
One?
Whoa. Wake up.
Oh yeah, I get hit all the time. Yeah.
Oh, the sweets.
They're elderly, yeah.
So,
Will?
that
Will.
yeah, so in the normal days you alternate, but when you're
Yeah.
having hair, only that
Is there
you
some there? Well,
do
we
from
have
the
a
left
customer's
and do from the right.
Okay.
You're next.
You should have funny album.
Go ahead.
Oh, Will? What would you like?
This way?
That's fine.
Yeah, because it's closed, right? Okay.
Corella.
So then,
Corella.
just do like
It's like trying to think.
Yeah.
I know.
Bitter melon.
Oh, it's bitter melon?
Yes, bitter melon.
just count Om 3 times or anything and then
So
let it go.
close the left and bring through the right.
Right, and
Okay.
that will take your,
Would you like another 40?
that at least 50
Okay.
times.
And how much is
20
it?
times and just hold it for 3 seconds. 5
I'm very fussy.